didn't start going out alone because I craved it. It happened slowly, almost by accident. At first, it was small things, walking to the park without inviting a friend. I hadn't thought much of it at all at the time, but the more I ventured out alone, the more I began to notice something stirring within, something unfamiliar yet intriguing. It wasn't until a warm spring afternoon when I found myself sitting on a bench in a quiet garden that I realized what was happening. I had planned to meet a friend that day, but when they cancelled, I decided to go anyway. As the sun filtered through the leaves and gentle breeze brushed against my face, I felt an unusual sense of contentment. It was the first time I truly understood that I didn't need anyone else to enjoy the moment. At first, I thought it was a fleeting feeling, but the more I embraced my solo outings, the more I began to understand myself in ways I never had before. When I walked through bustling markets, I wasn't just observing the world, I was observing myself. I noticed that how my thoughts flowed, what piqued my interest, what made me smile, and what brought me comfort. It felt as though I was meeting myself for the first time, peeling back layers I hadn't ever realized were there. There was something profound about not having to explain myself to anyone. If I decided to spend hours wandering, there was no need to justify it. If I wandered down unfamiliar streets and get lost, there was no one to laugh at me or rush me to find a way back. In the silence of my solitude, I discovered how much I loved the sound of my own thoughts, how they weren't as chaotic or overwhelming as I had once believed. My self-discovery wasn't always easy. At times, being alone forced me to comfort feelings I'd avoided long ago. Insecurities, doubts, and fears that had quietly festered in the background. But instead of running from them, I began to face them. I realized that my imperfections didn't make me unworthy. They made me human. And with every outing, every moment of quiet reflection, I found myself growing stronger, more confident, and more at peace. One day, I took a long walk through the forest trail, the trees arching over me like a third. I didn't bring a map or a plan. As I walked, the world around me seemed to fade, and I felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. I stopped and said to myself, I am becoming who I was always meant to be. That day, I realized that my solitude wasn't about isolation. It was about connection, not with others, but with myself. Each time I stepped out into the world alone, I wasn't running away. I was running towards myself, uncovering pieces I hadn't known were missing. And so I kept going through busy cities and quiet towns, sunlit gardens and shadowed trails. I ventured on, my only guide, the voice inside me. With every step, I felt more whole. I no longer feared being alone because In my solitude, I had found my greatest companion, myself.